The college football playoff expanding from 4 to 12 teams this season. Looking at some bowl projections here. Now, the 4 highest-ranked conference champions will receive a first-round bye. Seeds 5 through 12, they will play in a first round on home field or better-ranked team. The field will include 5 highest-ranked conference champions plus the next 7 highest-ranked by the college football playoff selection committee. You got all of that?
I'm taking notes.
That's good.
That was a lot.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot of information. Don't worry, we have guys to break it down. Brad Crawford, Chip Patterson joining us now on HQ. So looking at the bowl predictions and thinking about who will make the cut for this new 12-team playoff. Now, Brad, you are making pretty bold statements here, having both Michigan and LSU missing the college football playoffs. Explain yourself, please.
Yeah, Michigan's offensive personnel just is not what it used to be. J.J. McCarthy, first-round pick of the Vikings. Blake Corum, all-time leader in touchdowns at the running back position in Ann Arbor. Those 2 guys are gone. I know Michigan will be very good on defense, but this schedule gets to the meat early in September. They play Texas in week 2, Southern Cal a little bit after that. Michigan's not one of my playoff teams right now. I think Missouri and Michigan, Jenny, will be the 2 teams that are sort of on that cut line. And no surprise, the Big Ten and SEC are going to be the 2 leagues that have the most playoff teams, and Missouri and Michigan has those first 2 teams out. But you see there, Michigan's schedule is difficult. Texas in week 2, as I mentioned, Southern Cal in week 4 to open Big Ten play. So Sharon Moore's first season may not go as planned after winning the national championship last fall.
Yeah, with the College Football Playoff Selection Committee, one thing we've seen time and time again is that you need like a few number of losses to get in the conversation, but you got to put some wins on the table. And I think Michigan is going to be able to overwhelm so many of the opponents that it plays, but does it have enough, as Brad mentioned, offensively to go toe-to-toe with Texas, to go toe-to-toe with Oregon, or at the end of the season to be able to beat Ohio State for a 4th straight year? You know, if Michigan is sitting 9-3 at the end of the season, they're probably in the conversation. But if they don't have a win against another playoff team, well, then that could end up being a big problem for the Wolverines. And Jenny, you mentioned LSU. Projecting LSU to be on the outside looking in is almost the inverse of Michigan, where we've got offensive questions for Michigan. I have huge defensive questions for LSU because they were incredibly porous last year. They go and they hire Blake Baker, the defensive coordinator from Missouri, but they didn't change enough on that personnel for me to think that they are going to be able to take big steps forward. Now, I think they're going to be able to score with almost anybody, but can they get stops against USC? Can they get stops against Ole Miss? Can they get stops in the biggest games of the season? That is going to be a massive question for the Tigers and their playoff hopes, because offensively, I know they just lost a Heisman Trophy winner. I know they just lost 2 first-round wide receivers, but I think the Tigers are going to be able to put up some points. It's can they get any stops?
I like the little swag you had when you said Tigers. Got those Tigers out there. And I mean, you look at their week 1 game against USC, you mentioned it, September 1st. That's no easy task to start off the season. All right, now, as I mentioned, the field will include the 5 highest ranked conference champions, plus the next 7 highest ranked teams, according to the College Football Playoff Selection Committee. Now, Brad, your final 3 at-large teams. We have Bama at 9, Miami at 10, and Notre Dame at 11. How did you come to these selections?
For me, the schedule for Notre Dame is so favorable this season. I'm not sure how the Irish finish worse than 10-2 unless the injuries start piling up. We did see a left tackle out for the year. Quarterback Riley Leonard may not be the impact transfer that we think he is. But Texas A&M, Florida State, and Southern Cal, those are the only 3 teams on Notre Dame's schedule that are ranked inside the preseason top 25. I could see Notre Dame losing that opener here in a couple of weeks in College Station and still getting that at-large bid at 10-2 overall. Notre Dame's a team, Jenny, that I think in this expanded playoff era, being an independent and not in one of these power conference leagues, they're going to always be in the playoff as long as they can get to 10 wins. And at Notre Dame, they recruit at a high enough level where that should be the standard every year.
Yeah, of these three teams that Brad's identified, the one that I am just totally in agreement with is the Alabama Crimson Tide. And I understand that people are trying to sell stock because they've got the guy after the guy. Well, the guy they hired to be the guy after the guy is a really good ball coach. And what Kalen DeBoer has done in terms of winning at every single stop along the way is going to mean a lot for Jalen Milroe. I think Jalen Milroe has better coaching right now than he did last year when it comes to playing the quarterback position. I think Alabama has a stellar offensive line, and they're going to build things out from there. Their running game with Jam Miller, Justice Haynes, what a fantastic way to allow everything else to come from the line of scrimmage. Now, they do have questions at cornerback, where they might have to trust a true freshman, at edge rusher, and those questions need to be answered. But I think Alabama is such a safe play with a high floor proposition, thanks to the talent that is still there, the way that talent lines up with the strength being the line of scrimmage, and then the coaching that they're going to get out of Kalen DeBoer. I am not picking the Crimson Tide to win the SEC or be in the mix for a top 4 seed, but I think they're still going to hold serve against almost everybody else in the SEC and wind up in the college football playoff.
High on Bama. Love to see it. Now, I just want to conclude what we were talking about with Notre Dame. We mentioned, obviously, they are an independent, so they would be a 5 through 12 seed if they make the college football playoffs. Those top 4 seeds reserved for conference champions. Looking at the 4 highest ranked conference champions, according to Brad, and these guys, he's saying, will receive a first-round bye. So we have Ohio State, Georgia, Florida State, and Utah in those slots. I like this list. Chip, what do you think?
Yeah, I think Utah is the real question. Utah, Kansas State, Oklahoma State, the Big 12 is incredibly competitive, and thinking what's going to happen in that conference championship game is going to be the real dice roll of all of this, because Utah and Kansas State don't play each other in the regular season. And so if they were to meet there and that was their only meeting, you just don't know which way that one's going to go. Ohio State shows up to the Big Ten title game. They are going to be the favorite, likely, against whoever they play. Georgia as well, if they make it to Atlanta. But of those conference championships, the Big 12 is the most interesting to me, because the cannibalization that I expect to happen in the Big 12, where there's just not much separation between the best teams, I think it's going to make winning that conference to get a 4 seed so important.
All right, this is a little bit of a hot take from Brad. He has Ole Miss making a run to the college football playoff semifinal. He's really high on them. Chip, what do you like about the Rebels this year?
I like the attitude of realism, and the attitude of realism in Oxford is understanding that with this schedule, that with Jackson Dart back, they have an opportunity to do something that frankly does not happen when it comes to Ole Miss football. We've already got the highest preseason ranking since 1970. Lane Kiffin tells us it's the highest expectations for Ole Miss football since the Kennedy administration. They have 0 SEC championship game appearances. So if you're going to all of a sudden make a run in the college football playoff all the way to the semifinals, clearly everything that you've invested in trying to be able to build out the talent on this roster through the transfer portal has paid off, because they've got a lot of rentals on this team. Players that are going to be playing 1 year there in Oxford trying to capitalize on this opportunity and this schedule. If they get all the way to the semifinals, I'd say it's worth it. If they fall short of the college football playoff, well, then you're going to be really disappointed if you're an Ole Miss fan.
Checking out Brad Crawford's list. Chip Patterson, thanks so much for joining us, getting us ready for this 12-team playoff this season. We appreciate you and can't wait to see how this all unfolds. Folding and unfolding, that's what we're doing in college football this year.
Any kind of fold.
We like to fold.
However
all right,
you fold.
You can stay up to date with all college football and college sports, news, recruiting, transfers, and more at 24/7 Sports.
That's it.
Check it out.